Appreciate you guys coming and investing some time this evening in your community. Focus of today's meeting is Fire Station 4, new building, and it's specifically about the zone map amendment and the summary plat that we need to do. So it's going to be about expanding the lot lines and then rezoning those portions to adhere with the rest of the zoning of the site. So project map, this shows we completed the site selection phase a few months ago. Tonight's meeting, that pre-design, the zone map amendment and summary plat. And then in the future, we'll have a meeting to talk about the site plan in more detail. We do have a conceptual site plan to show you tonight, but really a lot of that detail is going to happen during the site plan adoption phase. So meeting agenda, we'll talk a little bit about project schedule, talk about the site that was selected, show you that conceptual site plan, and then go into those two summary plats and zone map amendments, which this neighborhood meeting is part of the formal process in order to go to planning and zoning to get that reviewed. So as always, Los Alamos County visions, we want to make sure that this project is creating efficient, reliable services in your community, enhancing public safety, really a benefit to the public. We're also looking at environmental stewardship. This is going to be a LEED Silver certified project at the end of the day. And then project schedule again. So site selection went to County Commission and was approved in November of 2024. Again, tonight being that pre-design phase, and then we'll move into schematic design and then the rest of the project phases. So this is our fourth community meeting on this project. The first three happened during the site selection phase, where we took all of the feedback on the three different sites before we went to County Council for that presentation and approval. Today being the fourth neighborhood meeting, the meeting that's required in order for us to go to planning and zoning to discuss these lot lines and the rezoning. So having this meeting tonight, we're hoping that we go to planning and zoning in a month or so. And then the next phase will be an additional planning and zoning hearing to talk about the site plan, which we're hoping happens mid this year. We do have a link at the bottom of this page and a QR code, which will keep you up to date on what's happening with the project. I do have this again on the last slide too. And so this is site selection A. This was the one that was selected when we reviewed three initial sites. This one was selected based on community feedback. There's more positive reception to kind of keep the fire station on the existing site. And it made sense from a site feasibility perspective when we started doing research on site utilities and zoning and efficiencies and response time. So this is where this site, we moved forward with this site. And this was kind of the initial site plan that we put together in when we thought about this site. So keep this in mind as I show you the conceptual site plan, because you'll see it has changed a little bit. This is now our conceptual site plan. So we still are going to make refinements to this, but we wanted something that was really realistic and thought out, because when we ask for a zone lot or our property line extensions, we can't really go back and say, oh, well, we didn't design the building properly and now we need an extra 2 feet. What we're asking for now is what we're going to hopefully get. So we wanted to be mindful of this being adjacent to open space. So we wanted to be as close to the existing fire station as feasible. A key thing to note is the existing fire station needs to remain fully operational during construction of the proposed fire station. So it was important that we don't impede on the operations of that, and we're showing a 10-foot distance in between those buildings. And that's an IBC code regulation, so we're not dealing with fire rating the existing building or anything like that. The other thing we did from the site selection phase to now is we mirrored the building, and what that allowed, it's a little bit hard to read here, but you can kind of see a dashed line here, and this is the existing parking lot for the fire station. So this gave us the opportunity to just expand that existing curb cut to kind of utilize the existing, footprint and resources of the site. That also took our curb cut and pushed it away from the bus station so that we're not impeding on the bus route or having to relocate the bus station in any way. The other thing that was important for us to look at was the hiking trail that's to the north of the site. And we wanted to make sure that when we pushed the building over, we weren't impeding on that existing path. The other thing that we thought of is access to that path. Right now, access is kind of right along Range Road there. We wanted to provide an amenity to the community, so you'll see 3 parking spaces up there with a new trail access point. So our hope is that the community can really utilize that space, park there, access the trail, and it's a little bit better condition than what they currently have in that space. The other thing that we looked at with the site selection was existing utilities, which I'll show you, I believe, on the next slide. But one of the key utilities that was difficult to relocate is on the right-hand side, it's labeled existing sewer lift station. And that's something that's a little bit unfeasible to relocate. So, when we think, well, why didn't the building go on to the right side of the existing fire station? That was kind of why. We also need to maintain a certain distance from that Range Road intersection and our driveway for safety. And then for efficiency of services, the fire trucks need direct access off of Diamond Drive instead of off of Range Road. So this is really what drove us to locate the building where we did and trying to be as mindful as possible to the open space. So we're showing a 65-foot expansion of that west lot line into open space. And then this backs up and kind of shows us existing trails and utilities. So the existing site right now, you can see all of the utilities are kind of the jumbled lines on the north side of the site there. So being mindful of the location of that when we locate the new building, being as efficient as possible, keeping the existing building up and running while we're building the new one and tying into these existing utilities. One thing that we will address in the site plan phase is there is a drainage easement that runs through the site. And that's this pink angled line here. That is something that will be modified, and our civil engineer is working on mitigating that around the new building. So that will be something that we address and relocate in that site planning phase. So now talking specifically about the summary plat, which is the expansion of those lot lines. We have a diagram, and then I'll show you the actual submittal So the diagram shows that 65-foot expansion to the west side of the site, which is needed for the new fire station building. You're also going to see a hatched area on the east side of the site along Range Road. And the reason for this is because it is an existing non-conforming condition. There's that existing driveway that actually falls outside of the property line. And we did some research. We really don't know why this property line was angled in this way to begin with. We think maybe at one point Range Road was like going to be curved, and so they were trying to follow the projected road. But now it really doesn't make sense because, you know, technically maintenance and repair of that portion of the road falls outside of the jurisdiction of the fire department, and it just gets a little wishy-washy. So we just want to clean up the site and square off that corner so that the existing fire station captures the full existing scope of the site. We did run this by the county engineer. They determined that there's no adverse impacts to Range Road or to open space by cleaning this up. So this is the formal summary plat submission. So this plat was created by our licensed surveyor on the project. And really what it's asking, I'm going to try to zoom in for you. It's identifying the two lot lines that are to be vacated, and then it shows the expansions, both east and west, that we're requesting to be dedicated. All right. So that's step one of the process. Step two is the zone map amendment. So this takes a look, it zooms out a little bit at our site, and we can see the color coding. Our site that was selected is institutionally zoned. Everything around it is public open space. So after we expand the lot lines, those chunks now need to be changed from open space to institutional so that the lot is one cohesive zone that we can build our fire station expansion on. And then this is that formal zone map amendment submission, which again, so it actually shows all of the existing site elements, none of the proposed buildings or driveways, since that will be addressed during the site plan process. But it's just identifying those two portions that will need to be rezoned to institutional. So that's really the basis of today's meeting. I have a summary here. So the summary plat requests are that 65-foot expansion to the west to accommodate the new fire station, and then squaring off the lot line on the east to fix that existing non-conforming condition. And then the zone map amendment request is to take those new portions of the property and rezone them to match the rest of the site, going from open space to institutional. The next steps we'll take your feedback from this meeting, and we'll submit our formal application, which will lead to a planning and zoning hearing for the summary plat and zone map amendment. After that process is approved, we will further develop the site plan and then go back to planning and zoning for site plan adoption. Now I'll open it up if you guys have any comments or feedback. And then we do have that link again so you can follow along throughout the process. How are we feeling? Yeah.
So you're not proposing to remove any trees? I saw some trees.
There will be trees that are removed. It is a good question. So we have a tree survey that was done of the site here. And so the new project will happen not as far to the west as this survey was done. That was kind of our initial look at the site, and we said, how can we pull back and have the least amount of impact on the trees and the open space. But there are a decent number of trees that will fall within the footprint of the new building. And then we will address it with some new landscaping around the building as much as possible, but there are some trees that.
Yeah, and we're not quite at that stage yet, but the big piece of it, can you go back and show the plan that
Yes.
shows the station as it's proposed?
Yes.
With the old station still in there, that one there. So what we tried to do to minimize that is move that station closer to the existing one. And then my recommendation is the chief and county manager at this point in time, are not to utilize that building, but to remove that and create more green space there, replant with trees there, try to improve some of that trail, the paved trail. And so we're hoping to put some of the trees in between that and the annex. We'll keep the annex building for some other purposes too, for probably PD purposes, but we'll be able to create that space in between and recover everything that we lose on building the building there. So we kind of feel like it's a good mix of new versus old. And we can improve maybe the site looks a little bit, and some more trees for people to enjoy. And I think the biggest piece, we just show those 3 spots there, but the only time that our parking lot will be full will be at like 8 in the morning every other day when we have both shifts trying to come to work and get off. So there's actually going to be more parking than just 3 for the public to go and use those trails, which right now there's really no parking. People kind of either have to walk there or park along Range Road because we don't have any parking. But we're going to advertise that where you can go back in there and park, and there'll probably be a trailhead sign showing you the trails like a lot of other ones. And so we're hoping that this project not only just serves a new fire station, but also improves that trail access and understanding there. So we're excited about that. And I can't speak for what's going to happen between where the old station is, but there might be even a way that we can have steps that run from that trail, so if you park your car down there, you can walk up to the paved trail too without having to go around Range Road. So there's a couple ideas in there.
So when the project is finished, what happens with the old fire station?
It goes away. It becomes trees,
Yeah.
open space, is what we're recommending. Council obviously has to agree to do that, but it will become open space, accessible to the public.
So Barbara, I would add regarding the trees that you're asking about, we would be following our tree mitigation plan that CSD follows. So we will be replacing, I believe it's 3 trees per one removed, 3 new trees per one removed. So we would be following that. Also, as we move into schematic design phase, we will be paying close attention to that northwest corner of the building that's closest to the trail, so that we can have some terracing and plant some more trees to minimize the impact of the building itself on the trail. So those things will come into play as we move into schematic design phase. Phil, you had a question?
Yeah. Did I understand correctly from you that what happens to the old building will be a function of another public works decision?
Yes.
It won't at any point be a decision related to this?
No, that will be, yes, so that will be a different process. So as our objective with this project is to have the new fire station completely functional and have the fire, the functions move into it completely, and then we will start talking about what happens to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it might start happening like as we go into construction, but that will be a separate project.
Sure, that's fine, because my objection would be, I don't want to see you tear down a potentially useful community service building.
Yeah, so that's
that
not
has
part of this.
Potential other, don't know about engineering, don't know anything about feasibility, just don't want that to become an afterthought process, merely to put trees in if we could put vocational training or any number of other things. Don't know whether that's feasible, but want that to be something we talk about before.
That would be a different project,
Yeah,
and then we would
that's
have
fine.
public input process with that, along with that. But for this particular meeting at this stage,
Fine. I'm
we're,
good.
yeah, we're looking at, that's kind of like the master plan for
No,
the
I'm good,
site.
as long as it's
Yeah.
not part of, doesn't become part of this
Yes.
conceptual
No.
plan after we're done.
Any other questions?
Just a piece of history. If you
Yes.
go to the historical map, it'll show you why that's there.
Oh, yeah?
That's the old Range Road. I
That's-
remember it as a
That's what we
kid.
figured that it
Follow.
curved around.
Look at the historical image map
Okay.
in the 1962. You can see that's
Okay.
the
We will take a
alignment of
look
the
at
old.
it.
They
the
probably
old
built the
Range Road.
driveway after Range Road was straightened out. you know,
Yeah.
And the annex probably came after Range Road was straightened out.
Annexed
Yeah.
it in the 90s,
This is the photos from 1962.
62, okay. That
Makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Because it
'cause
was down to the cemetery had been built by then.
Yeah, because it was relayed to us in 70-something, 72, I think that's when AEC gave it to us, or DOE gave it to us at that time. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we asked our engineering department to see if that was required for right-of-way or for any other
Yeah.
purposes. DPU does not have any easements or anything on it. Our surveyors had questions about it also. We couldn't find any documentation why that was cropped. So at this point, it makes sense to kind of straighten that out.
That makes sense, but
Yeah.
you'll be able to see the historical,
Yeah.
the road right on that alignment.
So in terms of the site plan, we will have a site plan process. We are anticipating taking this to, after this neighborhood meeting, we're anticipating submitting this application to the zoning or planning division. And then we'll see when we get on their agenda
Yeah.
and then move forward with that. So once this process is over, then we will be bringing a site plan application forward. And then there will
Okay.
be other
Good.
input. Yeah. Okay. Great. Anyone else has any questions? No?
So what will become of the annex building?
We're in talks with our internal departments to see if there is a use for that. We're hoping with the 5 bays that will be added to the new fire station, we're hoping that we can utilize those for all of our equipment, for the fire station equipment, so then we won't have a use, we don't have a need for that. But it is a good building, it's a fairly new building, so we're trying to figure out who can utilize it or who has a need for it. So that will be also a separate project. If somebody
Right.
wants to move in, it does not really have, it's more of a warehouse storage. It does not have insulation, it doesn't have plumbing. So if somebody wanted to move in and utilize it for daily use, we would have to look into it and figure out what we can do. So that will be also a separate project that we will be working on. I think our objective with this project is to get the fire station moved in completely, and then we will probably, during construction, we will start these other projects. Okay, if no one else has any questions, you know how to reach me, you know how to reach the project team. We have a new webpage for this phase of the project. All the information for the site selection process is still out there. We will continue adding on to those pages as we move along with other phases of the project. So reach out to us if you have any questions at any point during this project. So you'll probably, if and when we submit the application, and once the application is deemed complete, it'll move on to planning and zoning agenda, and you guys will be notified of that. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you very much for coming. I will see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you.